There was a young girl, a commentator on the TV in London a couple of mornings ago arguing about Trump and so on, as the usual not very enlightening discussion. She's arguing with Piers Morgan and she says, you keep on saying I'm some supporter of Barack Obama. I mean, I'm a communist. She said, I'm literally a communist. Right. And thought, if this girl had said, you should be more careful, I'm literally a fascist,
Yeah.
By the way, edit that one carefully on that. No, I'm alive to YouTube.
That would be the New York Times headline.
Yeah, exactly. Literal fascist admits. But if this guy, everyone is busy searching around. Like in Canada, one of the big discussion forums, the Human Rights Commissions found that there were 11 people on this neo-Nazi forum, and it turned out half of them were working for the Canadian government trying to find neo-Nazis. Right. The Canadian government constituted 50% of the neo-Nazis in Canada. So they're scurrying around looking for the Nazis like this, and on the other side, it's like mainstream on the television, yeah, I'm a communist, I'd love to go through all that again. The reason why so many people are going mad is, yes, we haven't found a way to deal with speaking to the world. I mean, it is impossible to find a manner of speaking which could simultaneously be you and a few people in a room, you and the people at your dinner, and possibly everyone in the world. It's jokes are the most obvious one. There is no joke so funny that it can be repeated to everybody in the world all the time.
Forever.
Forever.
Yeah.
And we all know most jokes have some edge somewhere. Most of them are not going to last 5 years, let alone etc. So jokes are the obvious one. The other one is, and I was very worried by what Sam said about that, about the same self-censorship, or not self-censorship, but that thing of stepping back slightly. Because what is the problem for politics in all of our countries at the moment? What has produced this backlash in politics? It's that we've had a generation of politicians who can never say anything meaningful in front of people. I mean, I spend a certain amount of my life on shows with politicians, and I know, and Majid knows, that basically you see it in their eyes. Yeah. The aim is to survive the next half hour without plausibly or otherwise being accused of racism, sexism, homophobia, transphobia, or something else. And you can see it in the other politicians. There's no meaningful win. The hope is that the other person says something which allows you to say, I think that's quite offensive to X group of people. And then the person goes, oh no. And then they're on the ropes and you got them. And if you get enough other people, you destroy them and they're dead. And that's it. And the point is that this is why politicians can't say anything.
This could be your effect on these politicians. But,
yeah, it may be. But the point is that this is why politics is going bad, because you can't tell any truth to that kind of audience. Now, the problem is, if down from politicians, or up from politicians maybe, you have the same effect, that the rest of the world also suffers the problem that politicians have of how to speak to everyone all the time. Because obviously this is a subject which is a more considerable landmine than many others as an issue. I think that one of the most important ground rules is this. You have to say, stop equating speech and violence. Stop saying, in all of this stuff, we need to find a way to think out loud. Okay, in a group like you're describing, or any other group, we have to find a way to think out loud and to try stuff out. Sometimes it will be wrong, often it'll be right, and so on, but we have to be able to have that ability. And one of the things that's stopping it is this endless equation of a thought that you've had and have voiced with the most extreme act of violence. So, for instance, if you say X, it's people like you that are the reason why so many of these people are killing themselves. You can't have any conversation if a part of the answer is being presented in that way. And I suppose just to see the people who are doing that as just using another tactic in order to win a particular sectional point. But allowing words to be words again is the beginning of some kind of solution.
it's a dialogue of the demented at the moment, where the society says, there are some things we really strongly believe in, and if you don't believe in them, well, please do. It's not very assertively made. There's a sort of, well, what happens if I don't? Well, please do. There's no follow-up. There's a long way for this to run, and it doesn't all go in a good direction. The enormous risk that often happens of people absorbing the arguments of opponents who do not wish you well. So, for instance, on interventionism, you never hear, in fact, I've said this to Majid before, but I've never heard anyone from the Islamic world say, thank God for NATO.
Yeah.
But they should.
But by the way, I'd spend the rest of my book debunking these, just for everyone's,
But I mean, they shouldn't. The reason I mention this is for the selective historical reasons which we in the West are at risk of imbibing. For instance, I say, why does nobody say thank God for NATO? Because if NATO hadn't have intervened in Kosovo, I think it's widely agreed that a severe genocide would have occurred on the continent of Europe, worse than was already happening. NATO intervened. We don't expect thank yous endlessly, but once will be something. And
thank you, Douglas.
So I have. It's not enough. But this is just worth remembering, because a generation and a lot of people from a generation are at risk of imbibing basically the jihadists' arguments about us. And I just put that out there at the beginning. The second thing I'd just say quickly is, I mean, the fascinating thing now about looking at back, for instance, intervention in Afghanistan, is that, it's one of the great fallacies of history which we're always vulnerable to, which is to think that everyone knew in the past what we know now. And, until the 1980s, the major threat to countries like ours was global communism, the Soviet expansionism. We saw it as a major threat. And anyone who doubts that just has to say that, I mean, if up until, I've often thought of this, until as late as basically the 10th of September 2001, if you said, in the early years of the 21st century, politicians, journalists, public intellectuals, and others are going to spend years talking about Islam. Say, what? Why? How come? It's not that interesting. It's not that vital in our societies. It's a bit of our societies. It's not overwhelming. If you said, okay, you're going to be discussing Islamic blasphemy laws all across Scandinavia for years. Why?
And the jurisprudence of face veils.
Yeah, and you're going to be the major debate in the UK in August 2018 is going to be the burqa. How does that happen? I don't see I don't see the way.
That is a bit surreal, isn't it?
So here's the deep underlying thing, which is that religion's back. And most people in the West don't know how to talk about it or think about it. And I've just got...
Hello, our Pangburn audience.
Yo.
Draw Muhammad and win $500.
500 big ones.
We're not kidding. We're 100% serious. This was inspired after, you guys know how the show works already, I think so. And for those who don't know, we go over the most popular Pangburn videos of the week, plus whatever's on our mind and whatever's trending. It is the Pangburn update. So this week, one of the most successful videos was one about drawing Muhammad. And we thought to ourselves, Travis and I kind of sat and brainstormed, what should we do for the show? And we came up with this brilliant idea of, how about we make it into a thing? We all just draw Muhammad.
Yeah, I think I think this is a good idea, and I want to know from you guys in the comment section, do you feel any apprehension in drawing the Prophet Muhammad? Are you worried about doing it? Are you scared that other people would do it? Are you scared of even being in this chat right now when we're talking about this? There's been there have been some horrible events throughout history connected to drawing depictions of Muhammad. So some of that fear, I think, is actually warranted, but that doesn't mean that we have to adhere to
That fear.
these rules, these pseudo laws that are pushed onto us by theocrats and Islamic extremists.
And that's one of the main things that we decided to focus on, because we want to make sure it's fair. We understand not everyone here went to Juilliard and is an artist, and that's their life. So there's a few points I want to say. The things we're going to judge this competition on are three things. It's exploring the depths of personal belief. That's the main idea. Emphasizing the that they are indeed personal beliefs. It's not a belief, Muhammad and Islam is a personal belief. It's a personal way that one lives their life, and that should not trump other people's beliefs. What you believe should not trump other people's belief. That's the main point behind this. And then, of course, if you're a good artist, that's going to matter, but that's going to be the least important thing for our judging. Right? We agreed on that, Travis, right?
Yeah. With any contest we do, we don't want, if we do an art contest, we don't want artists or people who do this as a profession to just dominate winning the competitions. We're going to judge like the amount of effort through a lens that doesn't necessarily say, oh, okay, this was professional cubism in its true form as Picasso would have demonstrated it to us. We don't. That's not what we're interested in. We want everyone to get involved in these contests, and they're supposed to be fun. And speaking of contests, we do have another contest running as well that has a $500 prize that we're going to be giving away on February 4th. You'll see that I dropped an 8-hour video last night on the channel. It's like for the truckers out there, the people who work long shifts and they want to put on a video or download one video for a flight or something like that. I like the idea of putting out these long compilations of Pangburn events that I've produced in the past. And then something to go along with that is this contest of trying to come up with and craft the best comment. Now, obviously, there's going to be a lot of subjectivity that goes into what would constitute the best comment. But there is some criteria in the challenge. You'll see the video is a recent video that's posted. It has a green background with a little radio signal icon. And there are some more details about the contest in the video. But try and watch the discussions. Those were big time for Pangburn to produce, the Jordan Peterson, Sam Harris discussions, and try to come up with your best comment in under 300 words for that challenge, and you just might win $500. And if you guys do win these challenges, we're going to encourage people to let us know what they do with the money so that we can share that with everyone. And hopefully people will send in a photo or something to go along.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Best thing you can do is just put the video while you're at the gym or on your drive and think of something like, oh, that's a brilliant thing to put it down. Also, engagement in the comments. The whole idea is to have good conversations. So if you're helpful in the comments, you're responding to other people, we see that. And we're going to have a panel of judges judge a selection of what we believe is the best comments. And you're also going to win money for that.
And we're going to do a quick stretch and exercise. And one of the ways we do that is by stretching out that pointer finger, aiming your mouse towards the like button, and just pushing very hard. Get a nice stretch. Drop a like. There's 70 of you in the room right now. Let's try to get it up to 50 likes. That would be amazing if we can just pound that like button. And let's fuck the algorithm up a little bit here.
Let's do it. Let's absolutely do it. So we also drew our pictures of Muhammad for our Draw Muhammad Picture Day. Yeah. So this is Travis's picture. So before we see the picture, Travis, what was your inspiration for this picture?
Well, Muhammad has this earned reputation. The Prophet Muhammad has this earned reputation of hating gays, hating homosexuals, ordering them to be killed. And, the way I like to imagine the Prophet Muhammad is him coming back and saying, like, you know what? I was fucking wrong about that. There's nothing wrong with homosexuals. In fact, they're cool with me, man. 2 thumbs up. I changed my mind. That's the Prophet Muhammad I like to imagine. And I'm sticking with that, and that's what I tried to deliver in this piece of art.
So you for you, it's a very reformist picture, right? In homosexuals within the
Exactly.
Muslim community. I do like want
This-
to point out that you used the Muhammad face from the Charlie Hebdo
I
comic.
did.
You
Yeah.
did.
Well, and look, everyone. They Charlie Hebdo publication has been attacked 3 times on the receiving end of 3 terrorist attacks relating to these cartoons being produced 2011, 2015, and 2020. And I think it's important for us to never forget this and to hold accountable the root of where this kind of hate and violence comes from. And it comes directly from the hadith from Islam. I think that there can be no dispute about that. It's hard. I'm not sure if I've ever met a practicing Muslim who thinks it's okay to depict Muhammad satirically. I'm not sure I've ever met one.
Even not satirically, though, I would say that your religion, and as someone who believes in secular liberal values, your religion stops at your beliefs. I could do whatever I want with the things that you believe are sacred, and there should be absolutely no society should be okay with the fact that you're gonna physically try to kill me or hurt me. Like
Right.
that's not okay. That can never be okay ever. Period.
And
End of story.
Don, I will say for the record, if I was to be murdered and killed for creating this piece of art, I just want to put it out there for the record that I have lived an amazingly beautiful life, and I've already achieved the things I've always dreamed of achieving in my life. So if that was to happen to me, if I was to be on the receiving end of one of these terrorist attacks and I was murdered, I just want to put that piece of audio and video out there to say that, I really think that if I was murdered for this, that it must continue. We cannot allow the violent theocrats of the world to dictate what we can and cannot do. People should be free to express themselves artistically, even if it means making fun of their Sky Daddy or their favorite character in a comic book.
It's just not okay. It's unacceptable.
Yeah.
I've also drawn a picture of Muhammad. Less drawn it, more to the collage.
No, I love this one, by the way. When you posted this, I looked at it for about 25 minutes. I had just smoked
25 minutes.
No, seriously, I just smoked a huge doobie, by the way. And and this popped up in my DM and my eyes were like probably about this wide. And I was just staring at this and I saw something new every moment. Every time I blinked, I opened up and I saw something new. So let's hit him with it.
Real quick, I saw in the comments, where do I send my picture again? You send it to info-pangburn@gmail.com, right?
Yes.
Travis, you're going to post it in the chat?
info@pangburn.com. And if you guys forget that, just get in touch with anyone at Pangburn. Get in touch with us on our Discord server. I'll give you guys the link right now. Come and join our Discord community. Like the conversation Don and I are having right now, we have
the same thing we have on the Discord. We have these all day, every day. Literally, we'll join in like sometimes you'll find us at 2 a.m. on like a Friday after we went out. We just jump on the Discord and have a conversation. Everyone's open. Everyone can talk to us. It's not like some thing.
Yeah. Something I want to add too is that our Discord server is a place to exchange ideas and improve our knowledge, improve our positions. You don't have to have a PhD to be in our Discord server. You don't have to have any education to be in our Discord server. The only rules are that you must engage in good faith and be helpful. And this is judged by our beautiful team of admins and server judges that make sure that everyone's engaging in good faith, which by the Pangburn standard means sincerity of intentions. So be sincere, be honest, and try to be helpful. That's all we
as long as you come in with that attitude, everything will be fine. And that's all we welcome. And sometimes there's a lot of drama. And if you like drama, also show up. So my photo of Muhammad.
Yeah, and you can imagine. Can I say one more thing? Is that we have Muslims, Christians, atheists,
Flat earthers.
Hindus, everyone.
Flat
What's that?
earthers. Flat earthers.
Flat
Race
earthers.
realists.
We have all kinds. Yeah, race realists. We have all kinds of interesting people with interesting positions that you will almost certainly be able to find someone you disagree with on everything. So the community is just grounded in the laws of good faith and helpfulness. It is not a community for atheists. It's not a community for Christian. It's a community for everyone. So if you've been looking for a place where you can exchange ideas and know that you're going to get good faith, helpful engagement with those ideas, even
Amen.
if you disagree,
Amen.
Pangburn is for you. So please join us.
That's the whole goal of this whole project, by the way. So my picture was influenced by a few things. I wanted to draw Muhammad out of things that have nothing to do with with persons or with people. Maybe the hands and the nose, but overall the idea was to have Muhammad be a symbolic gesture of how Muslims treat him and how Islam as a whole stops creativity, stops freedom of speech through specific actions.
Stifles the mind.
Stifles the mind, exactly. So
yeah.
Here it is. This is my picture. This is my
Oh, I love it.
So basically what I've done here, and this is my idea, is that I said dues is on the explosion. Look, the body is made out of guns. But I specifically wanted to make Muhammad's head beautiful, using all the art and the history that Islam has, and how the fact that his lips are shut and everything below his lips is warfare, stifling freedom of speech, stopping people from doing the things they want to do, is a symbolic gesture of how Islam as a religion has neutered itself from just entering the modern age. The way in which the theocrats practice it, the way in which the theocrats preach it, has just stopped it from being able to be a part of modern society. And where there's no separation of government and religion. That was my idea.
And be able to spread the beauty that is really at the essence of how a lot of people practice this religion, right? It's there are so many people around the world that practice this religion in a beautiful way. And I have no problems with that. Yes. I'm going to disagree with them with the truth aptness of their claims, but that doesn't mean that there aren't beautiful elements, beautiful poetry, beautiful artwork to be had from this religion. All I ask is that the violence stops. There's no excuse for it. There's just
when religion begins to justify your violence, I do not. But when a person or a group justifies your violence by their religion, it's a problem. Period. End of story. No questions asked about it. It's the same thing I tell religious Jews in East Jerusalem. It's the same thing I tell to fundamentalist Christians in the middle of the country. It's the same thing I tell to any radical Muslim. When you use your religion to justify your violence, there's no conversation to be had with you. You're not welcome within the secular liberal society. I truly believe that.
Yeah, exactly. Like, and look, we have to tip our hats. There's some interesting polling statistics, like for Muslims living in the United States of America, where they score better on gay rights and gay freedoms in polling data than fundamentalist Christians do in the South. So there are Muslims out there who are not falling for the fundamentalist tropes, the fundamentalist readings that seem to want to continue to oppress women, promote child marriage, promote child genital mutilation, all of these horrible things that can come with a fundamental reading of the Quran or the Hadiths and, what have you. So fundamentalism and dogmatism, again, which Jordan Peterson and Sam Harris during their series, that was the conversation, facts and values, and then how much dogmatism sucks the big one.
It really, but dogmatism is present in everything, in literally everything, right? Last night I had a conversation with someone on the Discord. I think Travis, you were there for some of it, and I was bewildered. I was shocked. Because for me, the dogmatic aspect of the conversation hinged on the fact that they believe that when the slogan of a group or of an entity is "Death to America, Death to Israel, Kill the Jews, Only Allah is the greatest," that we shouldn't believe that their motivations are related to that. and they just would
Right.
not move an inch. That is dogmatism, in my opinion. It's
Right.
like I have this idea, and I really cannot see how you separate those two things and say, well, that has a little bit to do with why they do what they do. When someone, how does that work? I
Yeah.
don't understand how that works.
Exactly. And these are frustrations that come up when you sense a high level of hubris or a high level of infallibilism. I try to promote fallibilism everywhere I go. Fallibilism meaning that you could be wrong about anything, anything you believe, anything you feel. It's possible that you're wrong about that thing. And bringing that air into a conversation is going to improve the quality of your dialectic. It's going to improve. It's going to give you a better chance of bearing fruit. And again, also bringing the principles, the Pangburn principles, the laws that hold the Pangburn community together, which are, good faith and helpfulness. One thing, Don, before we move to the next section here, I just want to give a shout out to the Vancouver Canucks. I'm wearing my, I'm a hockey guy. I'm Canadian, for those of you who don't know, but my Canucks are in first place overall in the league right now, and I'm super pumped about that. I'm going to be going to more games this year, but I just wanted to say that in case anyone was wondering why I have a Canucks jersey hanging up in the background and why I'm wearing one. So I'm celebrating my religion a bit tonight.
Well, as a Israeli American from New York, I have about as much of a connection to hockey as you have to, like, I don't know, Hanukkah or something. But but I like that you said I'm practicing my religion. And I think that's the personal part of it. That's where you go crazy. That's where you're irrational. That's where buying the jerseys and putting up posters of people on the wall and like being like, see, that's a great man. That's someone I like. That's where that belongs. It belongs in this really frivolous, doesn't really hurt anybody, doesn't take away anybody's rights environment.
It belongs in the domain of the lighthearted. And we need to be lighthearted about our religious practices, whether they be that of the Star Wars religious practice. It should be done lightheartedly. If you start trying to build a lightsaber so that you can go out and start slicing people up with it that you disagree with or that you think are criminals or whatever, then you've gone too far. That would be so. Whenever violence starts moving in, this is. I mean, hockey does have some violence, but it's an agreed upon contact sport, right?
Okay,
but,
we're not talking about violence from the people on the field who are just like they know what they're doing. We're talking about fans of fans. So let's say your team loses, you go out into the streets and riot. Unacceptable.
Exactly. Yeah,
unacceptable. You just absolutely cannot do that. Period. Nonstop. End of the story. But that makes me think. Imagine in like 400 years, 500 years, we got anthropologists studying religions, and they're like AnimeCon. A movement, a religion where people go and dress up as their favorite saints or characters in the genre and show up and collectively listen to the words and expect the next book, the next prophecies to be released. It's very similar, this cult-like fanaticism of these.
So remember, everyone, if you want a chance at winning the $500, email info@pang-burn.com, or you can jump into the Discord server and post it in the server and tag me or Don, and we'll get to it. And by the way, shout out to John. He couldn't be here today. Do we miss him? I think we miss him.
I only miss John as in, like, I don't have anyone to say ridiculous things and me going that's how I miss John.
I'm gonna be making a short out of that, and I'm gonna deliver that to John.
Oh my God, please don't. John, I love you. I do love you. Kind of, maybe.
Everyone, take a second again to drop a like if you're enjoying the stream. Love having you guys here. Thank you so much for the chats. Don, did you want to start with today's video?
Yes, so today's video is, well, guess what? Crybaby Muhammad. Let's listen to it. Let's talk about it.
If you guys haven't watched the video yet, Crybaby Muhammad is on the channel, and it's already got, I think, 350,000 views.
So, yeah.
Just example of this is, I'm not in favor of no immigration. I'm in favor of caution and of being careful. And one of the reasons of that is because I see a lot of unexpected consequences. Let me give you one obvious example of the country that Majid just mentioned. Denmark, like most of Europe, had post-war immigration policies that basically invited guest workers in, and then the guest workers stayed, which they hadn't expected, and then various other things happened. Now, nobody was talking about Islam in this period. I mean, it wasn't in Britain until the Satanic Verses affair in 1989, when the fatwa was imposed on a British novelist by the Ayatollah, that we started talking about Islam in Britain, really. And in Denmark, it didn't happen until 2005, when one newspaper editor, the editor of the culture section of Jyllands-Posten, discovered that in a set of children's books about the great religions, they couldn't find anyone to illustrate the one on Islam, because nobody was willing to draw pictures of Muhammad. And so this newspaper editor, the culture editor of the paper, commissioned 12 people who were prominent cartoonists in Denmark to do cartoons of Muhammad. Some of them did, some of them didn't. Some of them did ones that were saying the paper's provocative and unnecessarily provoking Muslims. On the back of that, of course, there were riots all over the Muslim world. Quite a lot of people were killed. There were burnings of the Danish embassy and so on. And I got caught up in a little bit of that. And I was in Denmark for the 10th anniversary of the cartoons in 2015. And I was telling Majid about this yesterday.
I think we could talk a little bit about
there'd been an event on the 5th anniversary.
provocation and how and why it might be important to be provocative through art towards towards ideas that you detest, as opposed to going to physical war with them. You can engage in an artistic or more war of ideas with ideas that you detest, as opposed to needing to drop bombs that are going to end up killing thousands, if not millions, of innocent people.
Well, art has historically been that for many, many societies and generations. I mean, when we look at like the fascist movements of the 1920s, the Germans specifically had an issue with Dada art that mocked the absurdism of these ideas of manifest destiny, these ideas of nationalism, this idea that society should, that these rational ways of thinking are all the things that matter. It's what's beautiful. And the Germans, especially Hitler and the people around him, saw Dada art as a degradation of Western society, as corrosive, as bad, as wrong. And how did they vilify it in the public? They called it communist. They called it socialist. That they saw as socialist art, as communist art, and therefore put their boot down on it. It's a very interesting piece of history. When we see art and free expression being curbed, we're seeing the encroachment of totalitarian powers, groups that don't want people and society to naturally emerge, right? And that's an important thing to understand.
Yeah, and new culture, and look, new cultures emerge from this. Something everybody draw Muhammad Day is now a recognized day for those who partake in it. It was originally a 2010 event in support of artists who are threatened by religious extremists for the art that they create. And the reason why I bring this up is there are many people out there that find themselves absent community, absent a place that they feel like they can go to express themselves towards what they think is important. And that is something that art can do. Art is a great way to figure out where you might be able to go to survive as your true self.
And an interesting thing that I've always had an issue with people on the left, because I'm on the left generally with most of my policies, their disdain for comics who make jokes. A comic who makes jokes, that is one of those places it's a form of art. It's art that deals with difficult topics. Comedy, art, theater, plays, they have been the place to talk about things that are not generally accepted by the community at large. The trans rights movement started from there. And I think that if there's one place that we should hold sacred, is the artistic world. It's your ability to freely express oneself.
Yeah. And the amazing thing about art is that if you don't like what you're seeing, if you find it offensive, you can change the channel.
Yeah. Look away. Go to a different block.
You can go create your own art in response to that art and how it made you feel. But when you start getting into this mode of like, I don't like that art and you aren't allowed to like it too, or you're not allowed to do it too, then there's going to be a conflict there. And I think the best way of sorting out those kinds of conflicts are through the war of ideas, the exchange of ideas, the battles that will ensue linguistically, the good arguments that are made, the bad arguments are made. That is the way I would love to see the world trend. We've lost too many millions of people over going the route of showing our military might.
I know this week on my channel, if everyone knows, if you're interested, just look up Don Prager PU, you'll find it. I had a conversation with Roger Berkowitz. He's the president of the Anna Ardent Institute, and he's a professor and teaches. And we spoke about something similar, about how he said it's a better way to deal with these conflicts through art as opposed to through actual war. And one of the topics we talked about is this notion of total war. But when you look at the way war was done in the middle of the set, like 500 years ago, 300 years ago, people would meet up at an area of land and they will have their armies fight and the victor would conquer. But now war is bombing of cities, it's bombing of infrastructure, it's everything's involved. World War II changed the way war was done. So war has become this thing that we can no longer solve conflict by. It just creates more and more and more conflict. It's the last resort for things. It cannot be the first thing we do. So when someone does something that you don't like or offends your religion, violence can never be the answer. You cannot allow that to be the way to do it, because you're not going to solve anything. You're going to force the other person to be violent back. Mm-hmm. It's a very simple thing to understand. So let's go back to the video. Let's go back to the video.
But everyone who'd been at the 5th anniversary would have been shot since the 5th.
Oh, I remember what I wanted to say. Immigration. He talked about being careful about immigration. I think that being careful about immigration can make people hear certain things of, oh, he's afraid of Muslims. He's afraid of foreigners. I think what a better way to understand, because I might disagree with Douglas Murray, but we just have to think of immigration as like a natural phenomena. Immigration is going to happen. Some areas of the world are going to have drought. There's going to be immigration. Some of your area is going to be more economically prosperous. You're going to have immigration. This has been true throughout human history. We are hunter-gatherers. We should just think of immigration like a funnel, that when there's a lot of immigration, we have to figure out where to funnel it and order it and like control people coming through the border. And when there is a little of it, we don't need such a big funnel. We can small the funnel. But it has to just be a thing that adapts to the environment that it changes. We can't close it up and we can't just have it open. There's a reason why there's...
Well, and I think Douglas Murray would agree with you on that. A lot of people paint him as someone who like hates Muslims or is scared of Muslims. But what Douglas is afraid of is when we would maybe start becoming too careless with the checks and balances on who is entering the country and for what reason. Now, I know that can sound like, well, so long as you agree with Douglas Murray, you can come in and he's not going to worry about you. I think the main worry and the things that he would talk about is that there should be zero tolerance for violence against others. In most countries that is the case. And if you're coming from a country where that isn't the case, where you are allowed to be violent against others, if you have this list of sufficient reasons, that doesn't necessarily mean you are going to be afforded that freedom in the new country you're going into. So the person or the family or the community that is immigrating, that is coming into your country, they should be given the best chances to learn and adhere to the fundamental laws of the land. And if they're not given that opportunity, that lies on the shoulders of those in charge of the immigration process. The education has to be there, or the new people coming in can't be held accountable if they're just practicing the culture as they were in their.
I mean, well, we can be very clear. If we know there is someone who's a convicted rapist from Czechoslovakia, right, or whatever
Yeah.
it is, they're not going to be able to immigrate to the United States. I think most will be like, no, that's not a person we're willing to immigrate for. And as we get from the things that we all agree on to the things we agree on less, well, the way we deal with those disagreements is through a democratic process. You can
Right.
disagree with Douglas Murray. I probably disagree with Douglas Murray, but should I vilify him for saying what he believes? No. Especially if what he believes is not calling for violence, just a belief that he has. That's fine.
Right.
We should be able to
Right.
talk about it. And the way in which we decide who's right or wrong is through a democratic process. I don't think this is always, well, how do we do it? Who's right? Well, there is no right. There is, how do we decide to get along and work together even if we disagree? And that's the point of politics.
And that's where dogmatism is the problem, right? Because if someone comes in with an attitude, into a country with the attitude that I have the word of God behind me, and that anything your country says that this is the right way to be, or this is how you have to act, and the people have an attitude of like, no, my God already sorted this out for me, I'm going to do what my God commands of me. That's where we get into problem, and that's where the dogmatism needs to at least be buried to a place where it's more of a internal belief that is not allowed to be practiced on.
Hey, you know something? I would say, radical take right now, if you want to immigrate into Don Don land, you first must recognize your fallibilism. As soon as you recognize your fallibilism, you're welcome to be in my community. Until then, I do not want to be a part of my community. That's true. If I probably will never be friends with someone who's dogmatic like that, who does not believe that they believe that they have the absolute truth. I can't do it. This is why I left half of my Jewish community behind, because I cannot be around people who believe that they have the absolute truth.
Some might say that is a dogmatism that you just displayed.
That's okay. I'll be dogmatic there. I'll embrace the paradox. I'll embrace the paradox. I could be wrong that fallibilism is right.
Yeah, there you go.
Sure.
Now you've eliminated the dogmatism.
But then you're going to have the how many turtles down do you have to go? And then I go, infinitely. I'll take it. I'll take the infinite turtles.
Yeah. Eventually, we're going to get into contact with other values, and those are going to,
and things are going to change and move as long as we know that it's not forever instantiated. I want to. I don't know if we have to continue this video because I think it goes over everything we basically just talked. Watch the video. Finish the rest of it. It's 5 minutes long. Click on it. It's Crybaby Muhammad on Travis's channel. Great video. Funny as heck. You have been watching a lot of World War II. And before, we were in the back room setting up the show, and Travis started pulling a John. For those who don't know what pulling a John is, John has this habit to just talk to us everything that's on his mind before the show starts. And then in the show, he's just sitting there quiet. So pulling a John.
Save it, John.
Save it, John. Save it, John. So what's been on your mind about World War II? What have you been watching?
Well, so there have been some new documentaries. Like I've already exhausted all of the World War II content pretty much that exists on YouTube. And some people would be like, no, that must be 1 million videos. Yes, I think I've watched all of them. But there was one I watched recently that really dealt with the process of killing that was going on before gassing really came into the picture, and of course that began with the gas trucks. And the reason why I was watching this, and I was also thinking about some of the videos I've been publishing on the channel, the videos that talk a lot about like, oh, that person's a Nazi, this person's a Nazi, that person's a fascist, this person's a fascist, because they might have ideas that you disagree with. And I feel like, and a lot of people are asking me, why am I using Nazi imagery in the background of some of the thumbnails of the videos? One of the reasons is because I feel like people are forgetting what they are referencing. They're really forgetting what it means to say Nazi, what it means to say fascist, or to even say, well, that's what the Nazis did. There's a level of hyperbole at play that is unknown to the creator, unknown to the owner of or the claim maker. They're to equate someone who's, exercising an idea of like, I want to be tighter on immigration or something like that, and that's somehow being equated to fascism or Nazism or anything like that. I think it's a very dangerous use of language, and I know I was really up about this when people would label Jordan Peterson with these labels. Like, Jordan Peterson would quote, Nietzsche and some people and thinkers from 1930s to 50s Germany, and they would say, well, that's because he's a Nazi or a Nazi sympathizer. I think if we let that slide too much in the way that we use language, it will be robbed of everything it truly does mean, and everything it truly does represent. And you need only look at the systematic, the stripping of the women and children who are left behind in the town because their husbands are out fighting war, making them strip down bare naked, lay down in a ditch on top of other dead bodies, knowing that they're going to get 2 bullets in them, and just seeing a river of bodies laying in the same formation. This kind of stuff, like this kind of content.
Jordan Peterson is not
so
sympathetic to that.
No,
I've never
Yeah.
believed that. I've
Yeah.
never believed. I have said a lot that Jordan Peterson's rhetoric is fascist adjacent, and can have proto-fascist tendencies to it. I've made a claim. I've written half an essay about it that I'm one day going to turn into a video, hopefully. But I
so
think
do you think now when you say that it's like, reminiscent of fascism, do you think there are better ways to describe that, or do you think that is sensationalized to a point of robbery?
I think that when I say proto-fascistic, I'm being very specific about like fascism as a political ideology,
Okay.
right? Nazism, while it's also fascism, it's its own thing. Like Benito Mussolini
Sure.
was fascist, and it was very
Yeah.
different than Nazism. But a lot of time, just because someone has like, ideas of a cult to the leader, or belief that if you don't adhere to like the specific rules of an institution, you're not worthy of like basic amenities, or you don't deserve to be a part of society. These ideas can be proto-fascistic, but it doesn't make you a Nazi, right?
Mm. Yep.
Uh,
Yep.
this is the difference, and I think people throw out. I mean, hey, in the United States at this point, I've been called a fascist. I've been called. There's people
Me
who
too. Yeah.
you argue for lower taxes. Oh, you're a fascist. People have gotten this. This is not above of the question. This is
Well, I get you produced an event with Jordan Peterson, fascist.
Of course.
That's what I get.
How else would that be? But the point is that we have to be careful with our words. Words do matter. They do. How we say them matters. Look at what's happening right now with Israel and the ICC, the ICJ, right? The International Criminal, whatever, one of these things. The only valid arguments towards, hey, you're committing a genocide are stupid things some political leaders and Bibi Netanyahu said, where he said, oh, we're going to wipe the seed of Amalek. Some stupid quote from the Torah, which is just trying to rile up his religious space, that could be interpreted as advocating for genocide. Right? Completely against everything the military commanders are saying, the official briefings from the military, the actions, but it has nothing to do with that, because words matter, optics matter, how you say something matters. Yeah. So when you go around calling people fascists, calling people Nazis, and they aren't, no one's going to believe you. Like, we've all heard the story of the boy who cried wolf. How many times are you going to cry wolf, cry wolf, cry wolf, cry wolf, and it's not going to be a wolf? But then when it's finally going to be a wolf, no one's going to pay attention to you. And we're not going to have a word to use to point what that thing is anymore. They're going to say Nazi, but like, I don't even know what that is anymore. a Nazi, and not Jordan Peterson's a Nazi. It's not that bad then. He's not
Yeah,
killing anyone.
exactly. It's like we have not, people look around and say we have Nazis all around us, like Jordan Peterson, all these people. It's like they do not understand what that means. Like there's so much more than some political disagreements that can be labeled as such. But let's not forget the the brutality and the tactics that were used. Something I learned in one of these recent documentaries I saw was Mengelé's his experiments on trying to secretly sterilize Jews or the lessers of society through
My father's
chairs. Yeah.
my grandmother was a Holocaust survivor, and my father had a nanny that lived with them. Her name was Paula. I never met her. I never got to meet her. She died with. Maybe I met her when I was a baby, but I don't have any memory of her. But she was one of survivors from Mengelé's treatments and experiments,
Wow.
and she could not have babies. She was under one of those sterilization experiments.
Yeah. So what I saw is in his letter to Himmler, he said that the best way of secretly doing this was to create these chairs. So a person would sit down for to fill out a survey.
Real
And
quick,
while they were,
quick, I just want to remind everyone, if you want to post your Muhammad picture, you go to info@pang-bird.com.
Yeah.
That's where you're going to find it. Post it. And then on the Discord, there's going to be a channel that we're going to make. We're going to post people's submissions. You could like them, rate them. And the winner that's going to be selected is going to be announced on the 28th, I believe, right?
Yeah. Yes.
On the 28th, we're going to announce the winner who's going to win $500.
And make sure you have your PayPal set up if you are entering, because I would prefer to get you the money through PayPal. But these chairs were going to be these secret ways of sterilizing those in society that they didn't want to reproduce. And they were basically these X-ray machines that had their X-ray tubes pointed to the crotch area of anyone who would sit down in these chairs. And in Mengelé's letter to Himmler, they said that we could do, thousands of people en masse in this way to help breed out the non-Aryans. And
I want to quickly respond to Jingo in the chat.
Sure.
I just saw you write something. That's really something very sick with people who take pleasure in purposefully offending others. Is this what you were defending? I don't know if it's to us, but I want to make sure that we're not trying to offend you. If you're a Muslim out there and if you believe in Islam, that's yours and that's beautiful. What we're trying to do is to assert that me drawing a picture of what you believe is holy is not an offense to you. It's an offense to your beliefs. And your beliefs are not above ridicule. They're not above me being satirical about, making comedy about, or making provocative art about. That is fair game. And in a secular society, that should be fair game. I should have the ability to stand on stage and say, I think what you believe is wrong. Oh, you don't want me to say what I believe is wrong? Fine, then I'm going to satirize it. I'm going to mock your belief. That is okay. That should be allowed. I should be able to mock the belief of a Republican who believes that January 6th was done by Antifa. I mock it. I laugh at it. It's hysterical to me. Okay, I think it's hysterical when people believe that the COVID-19 vaccine was going to give them 5G. So you know what I do? I post memes about how I'm sad I don't have my 5G from the shop. Okay,
right.
That is fair game. That should be allowed.
People want to give their precious religion special treatment, and I'm here to say that there are many people out there that believe in fairies. They believe in the reality of fairies. Fairies dictate the physics of this world that we've detected, and to post something making fun of people who believe in fairies would be hyper offensive to those people. Now, imagine that, and then think of all of the other possible ways that you might offend someone in a piece of art that you might create, and then try to remove all of the possible offenses from that spectrum. there's going to be nothing left.
And you want to
There-
talk about something that the Nazis did do? Banned specific art. That is something they literally did. They literally did that. Not hyperbole. This is something that the Nazi Party did do.
Yeah. So,
Like
I
you
mean,
said, like castrating people through X-rays in their chairs and
Yeah.
all that other means of doing
but this
it.
has always been like the religious trope that's repeated itself through history, and most religions fall for this, where it's like, oh yeah, everyone gets all of these freedoms except for those that don't believe in the same God as us, or except for those that don't follow the same religious texts as us. This has been repeated all through history. It's nothing new. The only difference now is that there are many people that have grown wise to the absurdity of all this, and they care to point it out because they actually believe in equality and freedom for all. And yeah,
Civil disobedience, by the way, is breaking a law that doesn't really harm that breaking doesn't really harm anyone, just like not sitting on the back of the bus because you were black. Right? That was breaking a law. That was breaking a convention that offended so many people. Well, guess what? I don't care.
yeah,
That's just how it works. I'm going to prove a point by doing
Yeah.
this in a way that's going to force you to enact violence.
yeah.
And right, this is Gandhi, this is Martin Luther King. This is what we grew up learning is the best way of doing specific works of protesting.
Yeah. Forms of protest that are grounded in artistic expression, uh, in my book, are the best forms of protest.
Mhm.
They might offend you, but they're not killing people. They are not making people sick. They're not trying to further indoctrinate people. That's not the goal.
Nope.
They're
not the
just an
goal.
expression of how one feels through the artistic medium. That's all they are.
That's
And
really it.
people have been killed for depicting Muhammad in like
In Paris, of all
childlike
places.
cartoons in Paris, and honestly all around the world this has happened. So feel empowered to draw depictions of any religious characters. You're not going to offend me. You might offend others, but you also might
Draw a
offend
picture of
other.
me.
Yeah.
I urge you to draw a picture of me literally trying to offend me and send it to me. I think it'd be
I,
hysterical.
I write music, and I know I've written music that has offended people.
What have you
But
written that offended someone?
well, I mean, I when I was in university, I produced this anti-Christian play,
Mm,
and it had some strong language in the music that I know caused some people to leave the theater.
So
But
wait, are you telling me the Book of Mormon was stolen from your play? That's what
it
happened?
was that actually Joe came by, and
I see, I see, I see.
he had a glance, and you know that's when he did LSD and went and found the tablets.
I see, I see, I see.
Yeah.
Well, guys, I think we are getting to the end of our show. I want to remind everyone, like, subscribe, follow my channel, Don Prager. Again, watch the videos, ring that bell notification so you know when we're going to be live. We're going to be live every Sunday at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern time.
And make sure you guys tell your friends. We want to get a lot of people in here, and most episodes we will be doing giveaways, whether they're books, gift cards, whatnot. I want to give back to this amazing channel and community that everyone here has contributed to making successful. So that's the goal moving forward. Huge event June 1st. Between Dinesh D'Souza and Alex O'Connor. Is the Bible true? Is going to be the topic, and it's going to be our next big heavyweight bout on the stage. So look forward
And
to that.
also for your Muhammad picture contest, you send a picture to to info
Info
at pang-burn.com. That is
email.
info at pang-burn.com. That's the email. Email it there. And if you want to see your picture in the gallery, join us on Discord. Just look up the Pangburn Discord. It's in the description of the channel, in the description of my video. It's really, really easy to find. As always, like, and subscribe. Thank you all. Have a fantastic night. We'll see you around next week for the Pangburn
everyone.
update.
Good night. Thank you.
It's taking too long.
There was a young girl, a commentator on the TV in London a couple of mornings ago arguing about Trump and so on, as usual, not very enlightening discussion. She's arguing with Piers Morgan and she says, you keep on saying I'm some supporter of Barack Obama. I mean, I'm a communist. She said, I'm literally a communist. Right. And thought, if this girl had said, you should be more careful. I'm literally a fascist, Yeah. By the way, edit that one.